Welcome in. What's Right with Nick Wright, episode 279. Fresh off a not that intriguing Monday Night Football game. A great, though, Week 11 in the NFL. Was it? Yeah, Week 11 in the NFL. 1 o'clock, Steelers-Ravens delivered. 4:30, Chiefs-Bills delivered, even though if it made me sad. And then Sunday Night Football. Looked like we were going to get a laugher. Turned into a hell of a game. It was a great weekend of football, except for, of course, for me gambling. This was my first awful weekend of the year. It was a kind of a double-edged sword, DeMonte. It was, I did poorly against the spread, and I did poorly against the spread in the early games, and then had my, get back all your money. Chiefs are underdogs by 5.5 minutes into Bills-Chiefs. Fire on the Chiefs live money line. Didn't work out. Sometimes it be like that. What I should have just done is what everyone should do for football gambling this year is make one bet a week. DeMonte's teaser, which was, I truly believe, the only Chiefs-related teaser in America that hit. Because everyone had them getting 8 or 8.5. You, with your 7.5 pointers, got them in right under the wire.
You always give me crap
by
for that
9. You got them plus 10. I know. Obviously the Steelers leg of it won because they won outright. So we'll get to all of that. Do Monday Night Football first, though. Here's what missed the cut: the Tyson Paul fight. Not great. Tommy DeVito is back with the Giants, and the Jets are so bad they're not even, I don't think, in the show. Here's my only Tommy DeVito anecdote. At the World Series, his agent was walking around like throughout the entirety of these games, and I've never in my life seen someone more eager for people to be like, hey, are you such and such? Can we take a picture? Like, his eagerness of people asking him for pictures could only be topped by the folks who dress up like superheroes in Times Square, and that's how they make their living. Like, I've never seen anything like it. And so more power to him. Good for him, man. But Tommy DeVito back in the league. What do you mean below the belt? What do you mean?
That's a
he's a public figure.
That's a real flame right there. All right.
Oh, really? Yeah, I hope it doesn't get back to him. My goodness, he's gonna throw his Riddler hat at me, and I'll be cooked. All right, DeMonte, let's get to the show. Oh man, go ahead.
So last night the Texans demolished the Cowboys. It was looking pretty bad. It actually started to look good there for a second. Looked like we had a game, and then they had one of the more embarrassing turnovers of the season. But the big story here isn't the Texans, it's just the Cowboys and how demoralized they look on the sideline. It just looked like they had quit on the season. You had all those players going down. Go ahead.
Yeah. So real quick, I want to say something. When this game looked like it could briefly be a game, and I thought about tweeting about this last night, and then I was like, it's not. I'll just explain it on the pod, and we'll move on. I really disagree with Mike McCarthy's decision to take that 64-yard field goal off the board, and I understand people's gut instinct, which is, well, hold on. When the drive started, the goal was a touchdown. You have an opportunity because of the penalty to have 1st and 10 from the 31-yard line. You'll still be able to kick a field goal in all likelihood if you want to. Why would you think he made the wrong decision? And this is, to me, kind of like the poker gambling part of my brain. I think you have to look at all these situations, DeMonte, of not all of them, but let me rephrase it. One way to look at it is, what are my expected points from this moment of this possession? So when you've made the 64-yard field goal, that is done. It's no longer a question, will you make or miss the kick? You know what the value of that is. It's exactly 3 points. It's going to be the value of 3 points and the clock being where it is. What do you think the expected value for the Dallas Cowboys with Cooper Rush at quarterback is 1st and 10 from the Texans' 31-yard line? I don't think it's much more than 3. Like, the way you would do the math is, what's the percentage chance they get a touchdown? What's the percentage chance they make a field goal on this possession? What's the percentage chance they miss a field goal? And what's the percentage chance they turn it over, either on downs, pick, whatever, and multiply all of those percentages by the points associated with it. 0 with a turnover, 0 with a missed field goal, 3 with a made field goal, 7 with a touchdown, and you do it, man. I mean, just back of the napkin math, I feel like is, and we can do this in real time. What are they to get a touchdown there? 1st and 10 from the 31. I think it's less than 20%. I honestly do. But let's call it 20%. Okay, 20 times 7 points. So for that little bucket, you have 1.4 points. What's the odds of them turning the ball over? Either turnover or they go for it on 4th down and don't get it. I honestly, it felt to me in real time like 35%, something like that.
I was going to say 50.
And then like 1 in 3. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you know, so let's just call it 35%. So that leaves 45% chance you kick the field goal and make it. Let's just say Aubrey is almost guaranteed there. But that's 5% chance he misses it, 40% chance you kick the field goal and make it. So now we've got 40% times 3. That's 1.2 expected points. We already had the 1.4 expected points. So I think your expected value from declining that penalty is 2.5 points. And you're guaranteed so I just wouldn't have done it. So I just think you've got the context of Cooper Rush as my quarterback. I wouldn't have done it. And the added context of, and this is kind of the fuzzy math, DeMonze, Houston blew a huge lead last week. They didn't expect this to be a dogfight. Now all of a sudden, midway through the 3rd quarter, it's a 1-score game. Like, all those things. So I thought it was a mistake. If you have a real quarterback, then you turn that down. I totally get it. But when Cooper Rush is your quarterback and you've locked in 3 points and you're only going to be at the 31, I thought that was a mistake. Now, that's not why they lost.
Actual indictment on McCarthy? Like, that's 100% his fault?
No, I think that is... No, I don't think it was a glaring mistake. If we're talking about the difference between 2.6 and 3, like in my back of the napkin math, all of it, I just think everyone's gut, all of my analytically inclined friends, I think the gut is, oh, he did the right thing. And I'm saying I actually think in the context of this football game with Cooper Rush as the quarterback, that's not the right call. Normally, if you can get a 1st down, you take the 1st down. But this was a unique spot where it was such a long field goal. The 15 yards from the line of scrimmage doesn't actually put you like even in the red zone. And the offense has been so shaky. Now, as far as the Cowboys, like this is why Jerry keeps giving longer and longer interviews. And this is why he seems to be flailing. He built a terrible team. That's the answer. The answer is Jerry Jones is in a position. Now, I understand Dak is now hurt, but they were really bad when Dak was out there. They built a team where you have 3 guys who are... Dak is paid like a superstar, and he's, good to really good at times. CeeDee Lamb is paid like a superstar. He is a superstar. Mike is cheap, but he is a superstar. But the rest of your team has almost no redeeming qualities. Your offensive line is mediocre. You have the worst running game in football. Your wide receivers after CeeDee Lamb are nothing noteworthy. The rest of your defense, you get run on. Your secondary is probably a little overpaid. You're just, now you've been dealing with injuries, I get it, but this is more than it's a Mike McCarthy issue, it's a Jerry Jones issue. And I know there's a lot of buzz about, Deion Sanders or the Cowboys doing something exotic. Man, they should beg Mike Vrabel to come there and create a real football program and block out as much of the Jerry Jones nonsense as he can and build a team that's good up front on both sides of the ball and hope then your star power of Dak and CD can push you over the top. But this the folks being like, hire Deion or draft a quarterback, guys, they made their commitment to Dak. Like, Dak is the Cowboys quarterback the next few years. You're not spending your top 10 pick. If they had not signed Dak, as all summer long, DeMonte, I said, hold your water, and I thought they were going to, then they're in a unique spot. You have a top 10 pick, maybe a top 5 pick. You can draft your quarterback, reset the rookie QB salary scale, pay Micah, pay CD. You're not paying your rookie. That becomes a much more attractive job because the upside grow with the rookie quarterback, but they paid Dak. So this idea they're going to draft Shedeur or anybody and then trade Dak, he has a no-trade clause. The contract hasn't even started yet. The contract they signed him to kicks in next year. So they're just stuck where they are. All right, now let's go to teams that... one other thing. Houston... probably not good enough to win more than one playoff game. And that's okay. I know that's frustrating because that's where they were last year, but they are, maybe it's the injuries, maybe it's the natural, schedule got tougher, they didn't sneak up on anybody, all that stuff, but they are just really hope not to be one and done playoff team because, DeMonte, their first round playoff game is overwhelmingly likely either going to be Baltimore or the Chargers. I don't know about you. I like both those teams right now more than Houston. I know Baltimore, but I'm saying even the Chargers. Right now, I think the Chargers are so much stronger up front than Houston. So Houston's going to be in a rough spot assuming they hold off the Colts, which I think they will. They're going to be in a rough spot in the first round, but the idea that they're going to be a conference championship game contender or a Super Bowl contender, as a lot of people had them, I don't think they're there yet. There's no shame in that, but I just don't think they're there yet. All right, DeMonte, let's go on to the game everyone wants to hear me be sad about. Go ahead.
Yeah, so your Chiefs lost to the Bills this weekend. Lost their first game, and it was probably for the best. You were saying that they needed to get that loss out of the way. You predicted that the Bills would look impressive and maybe even win. You also said two things on TV, that you're not worried about Mahomes and that Buffalo has better weapons and protection than years past. Do you fear that there's a possibility that Buffalo's better than Kansas City comes January, February? Or January, should I say, not February.
All right, so couple things. One is, I didn't say Buffalo had better weapons than years past. But they do have a better offensive line and defensive line than years past. The Bills right now have the best offensive line Josh has ever had, the best defensive line Josh has ever had, and Josh is playing the best he's ever played. And so, am I worried? I'm not worried in the traditional sense. I think if they play in the playoffs, the Chiefs are better than them. That game the Chiefs now still have some work to do to make sure that game's in Arrowhead. But they proved last year they can win in Buffalo in the playoffs, and they're still a huge favorite for it to be in Arrowhead. If things hold the way they're going, in order to get to the Chiefs, the Bills will have had to play a wild card game that'll be annoying, and then a round 2 game either against Pittsburgh, Baltimore, the Chargers, one of those teams, and the kind of back-to-back physical wars. Baltimore wouldn't so much be physical, but Pittsburgh or the Chargers would be. So I feel like the Chiefs are still in a very, very advantageous position. However, if you were to ask me, in the AFC, the team I would least like to play, like if I have to make the list of like your wish list of playoff opponents, Buffalo's the team I would least like to play. For me, the power rankings of least want to play in the AFC in the playoffs is Buffalo 1 with a bullet, the Steelers 2, and I know that sounds ridiculous because Russ and my feelings on him, but the Chiefs' tackle situation is right now is so shaky that you do worry the team with the best edge rusher in the league, TJ Watt, and then great guys alongside him on the D-line, that by itself could just ruin the game. So the Steelers would be 2, the Chargers would be 3, and then Baltimore. And we can talk more about Baltimore in a minute, but Buffalo is clearly a number 1. As far as Kansas City and not being worried, I do think there is a benefit to not having the undefeated season kind of build pressure momentum. However, they do, because it was the Bills game they lost, and they don't have the tiebreaker, they do now have work to do. The benefit that I was talking about on TV is, in addition to the undefeated season thing, Romo said it at the end of the game, it would have been weird. It might have been, one of them good problems like Marlo's Stanfield would say, but to lock up the 1 seed with 7 games left, do you then run the risk that you play essentially meaningless games from mid-November until the playoffs start for you in mid-January? That would be it would be unprecedented at the very least. It would be odd. So I do think there's a benefit there, but I also think the Chiefs need to tighten a few things up. Like Mahomes needs to play better early in these games. And I understand the team not looking as sharp early in games. I understand what they're trying to do as far as work on different things, try different things out during games that they can then figure out what they do or don't want to use in games that actually matter. But Mahomes is just not so sharp early. And then late, like in the fourth quarter early, the Bills go up by 9. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, there's the Chiefs' playoff offense. Just a surgical right down the field touchdown. But they had dug themselves too big of a hole to where, despite that touchdown, they still needed the defense to get a stop in order for them to have a chance to win. And the defense, God love them, had their first. You're talking about the first play or the last play?
The first one. The first pick.
Yes. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. That set the tone for the Chiefs were playing catch-up the whole game. Like, the game was being played on Buffalo's terms from that. And he's done that a few times this year. So, listen, he's the best. I feel like he's the greatest player in the history of the league. He has earned more benefit of the doubt than any player I've ever seen as far as, even if he and the offense look bad for big portions of the season like they did last year, come the playoffs, they're going to play perfect football. Just perfect. No mistakes. But those things do need to tighten up. I think he and Xavier, they're getting closer. Like, Xavier's got to do a better job dragging his feet, but Patrick also has to do a better job hitting him in stride. But they're working on that. And so I still believe the Chiefs are the best team in the league with a bullet. And they're about to get Pacheco back. And then they get Charles Omenihu back. And then we'll see about Hollywood Brown by the very end of the year. So they're adding pieces rather than losing pieces. But the tackle position, the left tackle spot's got to get better. And I would think they might call Donovan Smith, who was their left tackle last year and is semi-retired, but has said he's ready if the Chiefs call. And listen, they're going to be they're going to be rotating guys at the number 2 corner position because Jalen Watson broke his ankle. It's one of the most important injuries for the Chiefs all year, and they don't have someone to fill that role right now. But am I worried about the Bills? No. Are the Bills the scariest team in the AFC for the Chiefs to play? Yes. Go ahead, DeMonze.
Well, after Pittsburgh and Baltimore, do you think the Kansas City-Buffalo rivalry is the biggest current rivalry of the era?
Yeah. I mean, it's weird to have a rivalry where it's not your divisional opponent, but they play literally every year in the regular season because they both win their division every year, and they play most years in the playoffs. So, yeah, I would say it's the best right. Like, Baltimore, Pittsburgh just has the history. All the games are great. They play twice a year. But, yeah, like
I was
Eagles,
about to say, in my opinion, Kansas City-Buffalo is the better rivalry right now. I mean, it's just so happens that they have the more...
The stakes are higher, it feels like. But Baltimore, Pittsburgh, just because it's twice
historic.
a year and they're so hated, it's historic. Yeah, that's fair. All right,
so
you can hit me with the other follow-ups.
Yeah, so Detroit, they have the best odds to win the Super Bowl right now. Do you think that's fair?
I think Kansas City should be a prohibitive favorite, but I understand that I think more highly of the Chiefs than Vegas does. That's fine. But the other reason Detroit has the odds it does is right now there's not a bunch of teams in the NFC Vegas believes in. Like, they desperately want to believe in the Niners, but the Niners are in last place in their division and now 1-3 in the division and an underdog to make the playoffs. So the Niners, they're in rough shape. The Packers haven't looked as impressive as people maybe would have hoped. So it's really like after Detroit, unless you really believe in the Vikings, which I think is hard to do, it's just the Eagles. So I think those odds are reflected on that the NFC is so much less top heavy than the AFC. The NFC is better in the middle. Like, the fight for the 7th seed in the NFC is going to be good teams involved in it. And the fight for the 7th seed in the AFC, 8 and 9, might end up winning it. Like, that's going to be really a stark difference. But at the top, the AFC is so much better. I think that's what that is what the odds are reflecting there. All right, let's move on to Lamar.
So Baltimore dropped a winnable game against the Steelers this weekend. Lamar has now lost 8 of 9 games against the Steelers. He cannot get it done. So Lamar either seems to set it on fire or just forget how to play football. Is Lamar more limited than we were thinking, or do you think that he gets more blame for Justin Tucker missing field goals?
Okay, well, so first, let me be fair to Lamar, because he didn't start all those games. Lamar is now 1-5 against Pittsburgh in his career, so it's not quite as bad as 8 and 9, but it's obviously not great. So he's missed some games, and it's shocking he's only beaten the Ravens the one time. But go ahead, DeMonze.
Oh no, it was just a small correction. It wasn't. I'm curious to hear what you want to say now because you told me to jump in and say something. What do you have to say?
Well, it's everybody. I don't know why it is a controversial opinion that the bigger the game, the worse Lamar plays. Because it's not an opinion. It's just the facts. And it is so weird that it seems like I'm out here on an island on this opinion when it is so factually irrefutable. And it just really seems to me, and I hate to do this, but that the media is just playing favorites and not saying about Lamar what we have no problem saying about athletes across all sports that check the box of MVP caliber guy in the regular season who in the postseason and in the biggest regular season moments is a totally different player. The whole media was in unison on James Harden when he was a superstar, but this applied to him. The whole media last year was in unison on Joel Embiid when this applied to him. The whole media was in unison on Aaron Judge a month ago when this applied to him. But when you have a player such as Lamar Jackson, who we know struggles massively in the playoffs, you then extrapolate it to, what's the team in the regular season? The one team he struggles against the absolute most, statistically and from a win-loss record. And the answer is, his hated divisional rival. And then it's like, okay, what's the only other team he actually really struggles with, can't beat, and has a terrible statistical record? And it's, the reigning dynasty of his era. But in every other circumstance, he is, statistically speaking, one of the greatest players in the history of his sport. We have a word for that in sports. It's not a nice word, but it's a word we use on every athlete it applies to. It's called choking, getting tight, the moment's a little too big. And we did this to Peyton Manning because Peyton struggled in the playoffs, didn't play well against the Patriots. We did it to Peyton Manning for the first 8 years of his career till he finally got over the hump. And his postseason resume was not as checkered as Lamar's. And his success, and for some reason, when it comes to Lamar, I'm an asshole. The guy has a career 110 passer rating while winning 80% of his games and a 3-to-1 touchdown interception ratio in every situation there is except for playoffs, Chiefs, Steelers. And in those three circumstances, he wins 25% of his games, has a 75 rating, and has more turnovers than touchdowns. And people want to say it's coincidence. It's nothing about him. It's not that he tightens up in big spots. It's not that all of a sudden he misses open passes. It's just bad luck. It is the
more meetings
Go
with
ahead.
Lamar Jackson. It's the coaches. It's the coaching. And the more you see Lamar Jackson, the better you are at stopping him. And I don't think it's any coincidence that the person that he plays 2 times a year is the best coaching. He's gonna except
he's 10-2 against the Bengals. He actually hasn't seen the Steelers that much because he's missed so many games. He does well against the Browns. Guys, it is a direct inverse correlation for Lamar between how big the game is and his performance in it. What is Lamar? Lamar is 23-1 with stats that are truly not to be believed. In what circumstances? The non-conference games. The least important games on your schedule. And here's the other thing that is frustrating about the Lamar discourse. And this is where I think there is true hypocrisy. Every time the Ravens crush this year, every week, the storyline has been, look at Lamar Jackson's numbers. He's having one of the greatest quarterbacking seasons ever. 22 touchdowns, 2 picks, the highest rating in the history of the league. He's going to be a 3-time MVP. After one of those wins, John Harbaugh was asked how they did it. And he literally said, and I quote, well, it started with Lamar and it ended with Lamar and there was a lot of Lamar in between. But aside from Lamar, the other guys played well. That's what the head coach said. So when they win, that's the narrative. And every time they lose, this is the conversation. Why didn't they hand the ball to Derrick Henry more? It's like, well, I don't know. Because we're throwing a preemptive parade for the presumptive MVP. You're not allowed to have the opinion. You're not allowed to have these two opinions simultaneously. Going into last week, Lamar Jackson was the league's MVP. and Baltimore made a mistake by putting the ball in Lamar Jackson's hands. You can't have both those opinions. You got to pick one. And so, yeah, the Lamar discourse frustrates me because I don't think people are being honest. And I think they know it. I think they know that this is, I don't even have to go to history to Monze. It is exactly what was said about Dak Prescott last season. Oh, yeah, he's having an MVP caliber season. He's having the best season of his career. Great player, but we don't trust him come the postseason. We don't trust him in the biggest spots. We do this to everyone. And so
I love Lamar.
I would ask.
I think this is the year. I think this is the year where it'll be fair. If he doesn't get over the hump this year, I think he deserves all this criticism, but I think he will get there. I think people get lost in the
Everyone
flash.
said that last year.
Yeah, no.
Last year, everyone. That's the
circumstances.
other thing that last year was Todd Monken. He's better as a passer. They have they have the best Stevens in the league. They have all these things. They're finally, he's an MVP again. And there was a brief period where after the postseason loss, where once again, for the fourth time and his 4 times in the postseason, the team's season low in points was the playoff game. Everyone's like, oh yeah, I guess this is the case. And then everyone pretended they didn't do it. And I would ask the audience this, you as well, DeMonte. How early in that Steelers-Ravens game was it crystal clear to you, oh, we're not getting good Lamar today? Because I would say the first quarter wasn't over. And it was obvious. It was obvious. You can see it.
You see the difference. Because when he's on the other Lamar, it's very flashy. And that's what I was saying. I think people just get lost in the flash. I don't get lost in it. I'm realistic. That's what I'm saying. I do think this year he has the potential to go the furthest that he's gone. And if he doesn't, then I will feed into he just can't get through the postseason narrative. And him and Dak Prescott are two different things. Like Dak Prescott might be having a good season for him, but he's not as good of a quarterback as Lamar Jackson is. It's different.
No, there's no question about that. You're totally right. Lamar's a multiple-time MVP and a future Hall of Famer, and Dak's neither. I get that. And I guess you can look at it in one of two ways. My point is, yet despite that, it sure seems like we hold Dak to the higher standard. Dak's got 2 postseason wins just like Lamar does, and in one of them, he was actually one of his losses. He was brilliant start to finish his rookie year, and it's weird to me. Like maybe it's true that because Lamar is such a better player, he should get more benefit of the doubt. Yes, that's true. It's also true because he's such a better player, it being this stark is noteworthy. And you can't convince me it's a coincidence that the 3 biggest spots the Ravens have on their schedule every year are the 3 biggest spots he struggles in the most. The playoffs, hated divisional rival, best team in the conference. I use this analogy before, I'll use it again. If Aaron Judge, in addition to being awful every year in the postseason, was awful every year against the Red Sox, and whenever they played the Astros, it would be noteworthy. That's the case with Lamar. We saw it again this weekend, and for some reason it's a controversial opinion. I don't get it. Quick break, right back. What's right? Hey, welcome back in, and I want to remind you guys the Emirates NBA Cup is here, and you can win big by getting in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Picture this, all 30 teams, 6 groups, battling out every Tuesday and Friday, single elimination in-season tournament culminating in the NBA Cup championship in Vegas. Basketball lovers' dream come true, and the best part, you can bet on every thrilling moment with DraftKings Sportsbook. First time, something special just for you. New DraftKings customers, bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Score big with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use code WRIGHT, W-R-I-G-H-T. That's code WRIGHT, W-R-I-G-H-T, for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help's available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gambling or gaming resources, see dkng.co/bball. All right, Demonze, before we get to the game, let's do Niners-Cincy topic. Go ahead.
Yeah, San Francisco and Cincinnati both had some major meltdowns this weekend. Each of them has blown 3 fourth-quarter leads this year, tied for the most. For each team, a few field goals or some lucky bounces would have changed the outcome of their season or the trajectory of their season so far. San Francisco is plus 200 to make the playoffs, and Cincy's plus 350. Are you taking either one of those? Please do not tell me you're taking Cincy. You got to walk away from Cincinnati at some point.
So right now, I wouldn't take either, but I do like Cincy's chances more than San Francisco. So let's talk about the Niners for a minute, because I don't think people recognize what rough shape they're in because they're only one game out of their division. They're 5-5, same with Seattle and the Rams. Arizona's 6-4. But they are now in a position where almost assuredly they are going to lose all tiebreakers. They're 0-1 against Arizona, 0-1 against the Rams, 1-1 against Seattle. So the best they could hope for is to split with everyone, so they're not going to have any head-to-head tiebreakers, and have a 3-3 divisional record. And so that just puts them in such rough shape, particularly against the Rams and the Cardinals. And so they're going to need a better record than those teams. And the other thing San Francisco has going against it is who it has coming up. They are at the Packers. Then they are at the Bills. Then home for the Bears. Home for the Rams. At the Dolphins. Home for the Lions. At the Cardinals. So the only teams left on their schedule that are below 500 is the Bears game and the Dolphins game. Dolphins game, on the road against where it's not going to be cold in Miami. So what do we think the Niners max out at? 9 wins? Go 4-3 the rest of the way? Packers, Bills, Bears, Rams, Dolphins, Lions, Cardinals. And I think someone else, like Arizona, would need. So that would mean Arizona, if the Niners max out at 9, Arizona has to max out at 8. Arizona's got 6, and 2 of their games left are Patriots-Panthers. So that would then mean they just need to win 1 of Seattle twice, the Vikings, the Rams, and that Niner game. I just think they're in, and that's not even talking about the Rams, a Rams team that is at 5 wins has games left against the Saints, Jets, and then tougher games, Eagles, Bills, the Niner game, Cardinals, Seahawks. Like, I think the Niners are cooked. And that will lead to an interesting do we or do we not pay Brock Purdy question, which we can do at a later show. The Bengals, on the other hand, are probably cooked. Thing with the Bengals is, do I think it's on the board that the Broncos and Colts, who are ahead of them, go on a 5-game losing streak at any moment? It's possible. The Broncos, though, get the Browns and the Colts, Raiders, Browns, Colts next 3 weeks. So as long as the Broncos don't fall on their face there, they should have a decent cushion going into the final 3 of the season, which is Chargers, Bengals, Chiefs, but maybe the Chiefs are resting people there. So the Broncos are in really good shape. And then there's the Dolphins, who I wouldn't quite write off yet. Dolphins all of a sudden won 2 in a row. The rest of their schedule, Patriots, Packers, Jets, Texans, Niners, Browns, Jets. Get the Jets twice, the Browns get the Patriots. That should be 4 wins. How can they do in the Packers, Texans, Niners batch? So I wouldn't pick either. I think Cincinnati's got a slightly better chance. You can ask the follow-up to Monte before we get to the game.
Poked at this or hinted at this last week. Just want to give myself congratulations. If Zach Taylor was fired, would Cincinnati be the best job for somebody like Belichick?
Yes, because of Burrow. No, because of ownership. So, it's just such bad ownership there. But you would have Burrow. If you're Belichick and it's like, hey, man, I just want to stack these wins, catch Shula. Starting with Burrow and Chase, he builds the defense like the offense is already put together. That makes sense. But I just think ownership is almost disqualifying for the top head coaches. Maybe not, but I don't think Mike Brown's got the best reputation, especially on spending money.
Is it just cheapness that he has? Like, that's his biggest flaw? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not like the Jets. It's not just like negligence.
No. No, it's not. You're right. It's not the worst ownership situation.
Right.
But it's the worst ownership situation that doesn't involve like malfeasance or just rank incompetence.
Right.
So like rank incompetence would be like Jets, Browns. Malfeasance would be like what Washington used to have with Snyder. But then it's right after that. So that's fair. All right, let's play the game.
All right, we were playing this or that today. First off, Justin Herbert had some big-time throws against Cincy, but almost cost the Chargers the game with some bad ones. He's in year 5. What's the deal with Justin Herbert? Is he elite, or do you not trust him?
Oh, I definitely don't trust him. He has elite traits, and you saw that on display in the first half Sunday night when he's just throwing 20-yard lasers, running the ball like more than he's done at any point in years, and looking totally dynamic. And then all of a sudden, he goes 7 of 20 out of nowhere, has a fumble that could have lost him the game. It felt so much like the playoff game against the Jags, where he's just unbelievable early and then goes ice cold late, except this one the Chargers were able to win. I get frustrated. Danny Parkins, Breakfast Ball, loves Herbert. Like, I think he truly believes, he wouldn't say this, but I think he believes Herbert's the second or third best quarterback alive. That it's Mahomes, Herbert, Allen, or Mahomes, Allen, Herbert. He's on the record saying that he thinks Herbert has 90% of the talent of Patrick Mahomes. So think about that. He thinks Mahomes is the most talented quarterback ever. Herbert's 90% of it. And I give Danny a hard time because when you're Caleb is 10 games into his career. So I am still leaning heavily on my college evaluation of Caleb Williams because that's the majority of his football career. Herbert's in his 5th season, and so much of it is still leaning heavily on his traits coming out of college. So listen, he is an elite talent who hasn't quite yet put it all together.
What do you
he
think
was
Justin
close
Herbert
to it
would
Sunday
do with
night.
Oh, I'm sorry. You were getting into
Go ahead.
a real thing. What do you think Herbert
No.
on the Niners would look like? What would that make their chances get Super Bowl?
Oh, I mean, they'd be way, way, way better. I mean, that for sure with all those weapons. But it should be noted, like, here's the other thing that frustrates me about some of the Herbert commentary. For years, people were picking the Chargers to win that division and be a dark horse Super Bowl contender. People loved the talent he had for years. And then when the team inevitably finished 8-9 or 9-8, people would be like, well, what do you want him to do? He doesn't have enough talent. But then the very next year, they'd run it back with the same guys. They'd be like, they can win the Super Bowl. All right, next.
The Lions are the Super Bowl favorites for now, but you have some doubts. If they don't win the NFC, what's the reason? The Lions' demise is Goff or the defense?
I would think it'd be more likely to be the defense because the Anzalone injury's big. They already lost Hutchinson. So here's the prop, what Wilds got annoyed with me about yesterday was we were asked the question, are the Lions the best team in the NFL? And I don't know if you heard what I said, DeMonze, but you're probably not going to like it either. Or you're going to make one of those faces where you're like, oh, man, that was too harsh. Like you said, like the face you made was making fun of Tommy DeVito's agent for, doing everything but walking around with a sign that said, please take a picture with me at the Yankee game. So here's what I said about Goff. In the modern NFL, I do not think you can be the best team in the NFL, considered the best team in the league, if you have a civilian at quarterback. And the word civilian is what I think annoyed people. But by that, what I mean is when the other teams you're in the debate with, so the teams in the debate for best team in the NFL right now are the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Lions. And so if the other two teams have superheroes at quarterback and you have a civilian at quarterback, it doesn't mean you can't win the Super Bowl. It really doesn't. But it does mean you're going to be fighting uphill in the biggest games of the year. Because when everything goes wrong, can your guy make it right? There's only a handful of human beings alive that applies to. And by the way, they might all be in the AFC. Unless Stafford can tap back into Stafford from a couple years ago, the NFC doesn't have any superheroes. Jalen's not. Jordan Love isn't. Not yet. Sam Darnold certainly isn't. Kyler wants to be, but he's not. Like, Purdy obviously isn't. Like, so all the superheroes are guys with superhero upside. Mahomes, Allen, Burrow,
Baker.
Lamar. No, he's not a superhero.
Superhero.
Herbert. It's why the Colts drafted Richardson. Because it's like, man, we're in the AFC. We got to go with the guy that might be able to be a superhero. And some people might say Burrow doesn't qualify because he doesn't have the measurables or the traits. But his superpower is the accuracy, precision, relationship with Chase, ability in big moments. Like, his superpower is closer to like what Brady's was. But so I think Detroit's awesome. And I think they've done a great job building a team perfect for Jared Goff. And I don't think he's going to ruin them. And listen, I saw Brock Purdy make the Super Bowl last year in the exact perfect circumstance. And they could have won. So I'm not saying they can't win the Super Bowl. What I'm saying is it's so hard for me to say you are actually the favorite. You're actually the best team if you don't have one of those guys as your signal caller. All right, next.
We spent a lot of time making fun of Russell Wilson, but he's been great in Pittsburgh. He's been lighting it up over there. Meanwhile, Bo Nix now is the second best odds to win Rookie of the Year. Happier with their quarterback, Pittsburgh or Denver?
Oh, right now, probably Denver because Nix has exceeded expectations. Now, remember, before the year, when we were talking Offensive Rookie of the Year, I created the category of most likely to fool people into thinking he's good. And I said Bo Nix was the number 1 draft pick for that. He's your age, DeMonze. He played 6 years of college football. He, like, just a little context. People think I'm joking about Bo Nix. Bo Nix is 3 months younger. 3 months younger than Trevor Lawrence. When I say he's an old rookie, he's an old rookie. Okay? So he turns 25 in January. So he had that going for him, and Sean Payton's offense. But they're really happy because he has shown such a high floor that they feel like, okay, we have our guy. And again, I don't know, there's a little Mac Jones potential here, not fall off like that, but where he is at his full ceiling his rookie season. Russell Wilson, man, the fact that the Steelers won that game despite Russell playing that way is a testament to their coaching and their defense. And that pick in the end zone was maybe the worst non-Will Levis play of the season. So as happy as Pittsburgh is right now, I think Russ has actually played a touch worse in each game of the season so far. Thought his best was the Jets. Then the Giants, still pretty good. Washington, not great at all. And then the Ravens game, I thought he was bad. And they won despite it. All right, next.
Both Caleb Williams and Drake May had good games, despite losses, though. But it seems like people are very high on Drake May and hardly noticed Caleb Williams' good weekend. Most delusional, Caleb's critics or Drake's devotees?
You know what? I'm going to go with neither because, listen, the Caleb critics, I think it's been mostly fair. People giving up on him or saying the Bears made the wrong pick, that's too much, but he hasn't played up to the level we would have hoped. And I understand why people are excited about Drake May. But this also is, there's a lot at play here. One is, because everyone expected and was fine with the Patriots being awful, Drake is going out there and just letting it rip, which is super fun. He has big plays. He throws picks to end games. He makes mistakes, but then he makes awesome plays. Because for the Bears, it was like, we can be a playoff team. We should be good. We haven't gotten that out of Caleb. He has been playing a safe, brand of football. Just don't make the big mistake. And you hate that for a rookie. And that's because of the disparate team expectations.
There's a lot of life
but
in
the
that
other
game,
thing,
like what I saw
this last
Chicago,
game,
Green Bay.
So
yeah,
right. So here's my hypothesis. I think Shane Waldron, who was the offensive coordinator, was like, I'm going to be Caleb's offensive coordinator for years. We are going to try, even though we might struggle, his rookie year to install big boy quarterbacking habits where you're going to go through all your progressions. We know you can run, don't run, stay in the pocket, all these things. Meanwhile, the other rookies like Jaden and Bo, a ton of what Jaden, when the guy from the Bengals was like, it's a real nice college offense Jaden is running, he wasn't totally wrong. What he was saying was, Cliff Kingsbury was telling Jaden Daniels, look at your first read. If it's not there, look at your check down, and if it's not there, run. And it worked. First read was open a lot. If not, go right to the check down. If not, be an athlete. Pardon me. For the first time all year, that's what the Caleb was coached to do. Look at your first read. Look at your check down. If it's not there, run. And he ran for 70 yards, got comfortable as the game went on, all these things. Now, that's not all quarterbacking is, and he's got to develop more. But it was a good way to level set him since it was going in such a negative reaction. All right, let's go to the next one.
12 weeks in, and the most impactful free agents of the NFL offseason have been running backs. Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, even Joe Mixon just lit it up last night. Our veteran running backs reshaping the position. Running backs are worth paying or not essential.
Well, at this point, given how the market has moved, at this point, I think they might be worth paying somewhat. So if we're talking $6 to $8 million, when, wide receiver 3 goes for $10 million, yeah, then now it's, you know what I mean? Now we've kind of flipped. Like, the Chiefs signed Hollywood Brown for $6 million. Derrick Henry makes 8. So, I do think there is a level of where the market has moved enough to where you'd consider it. I still think you can find them in the draft, but what you can't do is what the Cowboys did. Not spend money on one and not identify somebody in the draft you really like. All right, last one, DeMonte.
Your rival, Mina Kimes, suggested you get on Blue Sky. It seems like people are threatening to leave X and Waves, but we haven't seen the shift yet. Get Nick Wright on X. Are you staying? Are you going?
Well, I'm staying, but I also did sign up. I had signed up, evidently, I didn't realize it, for Blue Sky years ago, because it said I already had an account, and it was at Get Nick Wright. And I'm trying to post somewhat on both places. Let me see how so what I didn't want to do is, I don't like the announcement, like I'm using this social media now, but also how then do you get people to know you're on there if you don't do that? So I'm not really sure. Listen, I'm not gonna act like I'm leaving Twitter based on principled grounds. Maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't, but it's where, I've got 600,000-700,000 people. It's a good way to get a message out still, even though the For You tab is a hellscape. Just follow who you follow. So I'm still using that, but I'm trying to, I'll try to put stuff on Blue Sky as well, because it does seem like some people left. I don't know, you know what I mean? I don't know the percentage of it, but some people left. So we'll try to post on both. That's the short version. All right. Let me answer take a quick break, answer some listener questions next. What's right? All right, welcome back in. What's right with Nick Wright, DeMonte? Let's do some listener questions.
Splash Zone Nick, I beseech and implore you, as you enter your bachelor phase on First Things First, consider the Rams.
Oh, I'm more than considering the Rams. I've got a trip scheduled to Los Angeles next week, actually, to see this Rams to the Super Bowl take up close and in person. No, the Rams are on the short list. Rams are on the list. Eagles are on the list. Lions are on the list. Those right now are the 3 leading contenders for my NFC Super Bowl pick. So don't you worry about that. Read DeMar Butler's question, DeMonte, and I just want to tell the audience this is sent in all caps so everybody knows. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is in all caps. DeMar Butler says, Nick, Lamar didn't fumble 2 times, and Lamar didn't miss 2 field goals. Lamar didn't get the ball ripped out of his hands, and Lamar wasn't getting penalties to start drives 1st and 20.
Did Lamar play well, DeMar? Or did he complete 45% of his passes? Listen, you're right. Other guys also made mistakes. But even if Justin Tucker had made his field goals, it wouldn't change the fact Lamar played really poorly. And that's just not up for debate. And we can continue to make these excuses, but it's a tough bridge when it's like they lost the game and he played poorly, but you would like me to create a scenario where they didn't lose the game because one of those things didn't happen and he didn't play poorly. Well, there's a lot of scenarios we could create that are totally fictitious. This was not a scenario. This was not the Bengals-Ravens games where both quarterbacks played great and someone had to lose. This was actually the opposite. Both quarterbacks played poorly and someone had to win. And after the Russell interception, when you got a gift and it was Ravens down 5 with the ball, go make a play, MVP. That's all. Go make a play. All right, let's keep moving.
Sorry, Lamar. Noah Rodriguez. The Sixers are 2-11. Should Embiid try to get out of Philly?
Embiid should try to play like an MVP and be available. Like, I mean, the call is coming from inside the house as far as Joel Embiid and the reasoning Philly is struggling. So that's like, there's not going to be a lot of situations where, and I know guys have dealt with injuries, but better than Maxey and George. Figure it out. Make it work. Nobody's running away with the bottom of the Eastern Conference playoff spots. You still got plenty of time. Next.
Danny Tanner. Is J.J. Redick a legit head coach, or is it more fair to say that Darvin Ham was over his skis?
Both. I mean, J.J. Redick is a legit head coach, X's and O's wise. I wonder how the softer coach skills he's going to do well with. But Darvin Ham was also clueless. All right, next one.
Scott Frazier. If Cousins keeps playing this bad, should the Falcons start Penix?
Not yet, but let's see if it continues. Like, they're still in first in the division, and there's, they see if it stabilizes. But the last few weeks, Cousins has looked really, really shaky. Renee Mehta asked me, when's the poker tournament come on? Not for a few months, so I'll let you guys know. And Tommy DeVito's agent evidently says I'm welcome for a photo. I don't believe that's actually his agent.
I don't believe that's actually his agent.
I obviously, but that is Demonte. That is what he was wearing one of the 2 games that I was at. An iridescent, glowing Yankees coat and that hat. And I'm here to tell you, of the 2 days he was getting that I saw, that I was 2 Yankee games of that, games 4 and 5, this was the less ostentatious of the 2 looks. I'm not making it up, guys.
One, I saw him in like green. It was like a green blazer or something, and like the suit pants, and he had on like some Jordan 11s or something. That one I thought was a calm fit. Might have been different venues, but
I listen. Nobody, and it was also, no, it's not. I don't like the guy. I didn't say I don't like the guy. Let's not do that. I'm just telling you, it was interesting to watch someone like take laps and dart their eyes around. Like, anyone notice me? Anyone got their phone out? Anyone want to snap a quick pic? All right, see you guys on the herd and on First Things First. Sorry, Tommy DeVito's agent. What's right? Hey, thanks for watching. If you're still here, do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button, then hit the bell so you can be notified when we have new episodes. After you've done that, one more favor, go to your favorite audio platform of choice and subscribe there as well. Don't forget, we're live every Tuesday and Thursday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern-ish. 10:35, 10:40, it sometimes changes, but that's why you hit the bell. You hit the bell so you're notified. You subscribe so we can get to 200,000 followers. We're right around 150,000. We'd love to get to 200,000, get Demonte another plaque. So like, subscribe, rate, send a rating too. Do all that cool stuff. Thanks, guys.